What's going on, fellas? As you can see by the title, this is one of those topics where the conversation might get a little uncomfortable, but it has to be had. Straight to the point, your job isn't safe. And one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they have a 9 to 5 is they get too comfortable. You wake up, you go to work, you come home, you eat, maybe watch Netflix, scroll on Instagram a little bit, you go to sleep, and you repeat that cycle, and you're in a hypnotic rhythm. And next thing you know, you look up, and it's 5 years. You've been with that company for 5 years doing the same shit. And it psychs you out because you've been there so long and you've been doing the same thing every day that you start feeling like your job is guaranteed. You start to feel like your position isn't threatened. I've heard people say, oh, I've been here 5 years, or oh, my boss loves me, they'll never fire me. And fellas, don't get me wrong, that stuff may be true. Those statements may be absolutely true. But you gotta understand that's something that you can't control. You can't control that. First and foremost, companies are always looking for ways to be more efficient. If they could find somebody that could do the same thing that you do, or better, for less money, right? If they could find somebody that does the same thing that you do and be able to pay them less money, if that other person will accept less than what they're paying you, they're gonna get rid of you, they're gonna hire that person. That's how you're replaceable. You think just because, you and your manager say good morning to each other every day that you're good? You think just because you bought cookies and ice cream for your employees for lunch that you're good? And fellas, now with the way technology going, artificial intelligence, the competition just got that much harder. This technology is changing every year. Jobs are changing every year. Companies are changing every single year. So my question is, why aren't you? And fellas, I'm not saying this to scare you. Again, these talks that I'm having with you guys come from real life experiences. I've lived it. I've been fired before. I've been fired from probably one of the best companies that you could work for in the world. Back during the pandemic, fellas, I was working for Porsche and I got let go. And fellas, I'm gonna be honest with you, like I'm not one of those persons that's gonna sit here and make excuses or, act like they did something wrong, because they didn't. I deserved to be fired. At first, when I got hired, we was working in the office. I was in the financial department. We was working in the office. When the pandemic hit, that's when we started working from home. And when we started working from home, I got comfortable. I was taking longer lunches. I was clocking in late. I just wasn't taking my job serious. And to be fair, my manager had multiple meetings with me discussing my performance and my attendance. And then one day she scheduled another meeting with just me. And that meeting was our last meeting that we had. She looked at me on that Teams call and said, we gotta let you go. The next morning I had to pack up my equipment and send it back. And I just sat there like, I've never been fired from a job before. I've had multiple jobs, never been fired from a job before. But that was probably one of those times where it was embarrassing. I was disappointed in myself because that was something I could control, right? In that instance, I could control. I could control my effort. I could control my attendance. I could control my energy, my professionalism. But the fact is, fellas, the inputs that I was putting in correlated with the outputs that I got. And I was bullshitting on the job. So the job let me go. I wasn't angry, I was just disappointed in myself. Because regardless on how people may make it look or seem, a paycheck is a blessing. And you don't really notice how much we take one paycheck for granted until when it's time for payday to come and that check doesn't hit. That's when reality sets in. A steady paycheck is a blessing that a lot of people don't have. There's literally people applying for jobs every single day that can't even land an interview. And now all of a sudden at that point I was one of them. I didn't have structure, I didn't have a system, I didn't have a real plan, but I still had bills, right? I still had things I wanted to do. I still had things that I had to take care of. So that's when I began door dashing. But while I was out delivering food, I had a lot of time to think. And I realized something. The problem wasn't that I got fired. The problem was that I hadn't built myself. I didn't have any skills. There's nothing that really set me apart from anybody else. I know the day that Porsche let me go, the next day there was somebody already taking my spot. I already know that, because I wasn't doing nothing special, right? I was in the financial department. All I had to do is answer calls, read a script, resolve some issues. I didn't have a specialized skill. I didn't have nothing that was sought after. I was doing a job that a million other people could have done. So to be honest, from day one, I was replaceable. And that experience changed my life. And I told myself I'll never be in that position again. Fast forward, as you guys know the story, I became certified, right? I went to the IT Tech Academy. I locked in for 12 weeks. I got certified. But let me tell you guys something. When people hear that, they ask me all the time, was it hard, or how long, were you like trying to get your certification, how was the test, this, that, and the third. And I'm gonna be honest with y'all, getting a certification isn't the hard part. Getting a certification, the journey of getting your certification, taking the test and actually getting a certification, that's probably the easiest part. And that's just me being honest with you. But becoming the man who could earn that certification, that was the hard part for me. Locking in, studying, attending the classes, being not only in attendance of the class, but focusing, saying no to going out, saying no to my distractions, saying no to temptation, staying disciplined for 12 straight weeks. That was the difficult part. I was going months, years of just a repeated cycle of falling victim to my vices and my distractions. Now all of a sudden I had to lock in. But then even after that, fellas, like a lot of people think just because you're strapped with a certification, now all of a sudden your life is gonna change like that drastically. My life didn't change overnight, fellas. After you get your certification, that's where the real groundwork actually starts. I still had to take entry-level jobs. I still had to build up my experience. I still had to keep applying, right? Because I didn't have no experience. I didn't have anything under my belt. But eventually, everything flipped for me. Instead of me chasing jobs, they started chasing me. Recruiters started calling me. Companies started reaching out, sending me emails. And when I had these interviews, when I walk in these interviews, or I have these Zoom interviews, I wasn't hoping that they would pick me anymore because I knew the value that I brought to the table. And fellas, that's what happens when you build yourself up. That stress, that concern of if you're gonna get picked, if you're good enough, if you're valuable enough, that goes out the window when you actually build yourself and learn a skill. Now don't get it twisted, fellas. My current job, my current 9 to 5, I love my job. I'm grateful for my current job, yes. It's opened a lot of doors for me. It's allowed me to do a lot of things that I probably wouldn't have done if, I never took on the position. I've met incredible people. It's helped me provide for myself. So fellas, this isn't me telling you to quit your job. This isn't me telling you to hate your employer. This is me telling you don't depend on your employer for your entire future. Fellas, we gotta understand, we gotta use our 9 to 5 as a tool. When you go to work, don't just go through the motions, right? Don't just go through the motions. Every job, there's something that you can learn. Even if you work at McDonald's, there's something that you can learn, right? You can see the systems. You can look at communications. When you go to work, you gotta look at certain things that you can pick up, certain traits and qualities of the business and add it to your toolbox. When you go to work, you should be learning everything that you can, not necessarily about the job, but about the business, about the system. Chick-fil-A and Porsche are probably two of the jobs that I worked at that I've learned a lot from. Like with Porsche, I learned a lot about like marketing, how marketing made a difference. I learned how to structure certain sentences, when on the phone with customers. Because with Porsche, you got a certain caliber of customer. So even with your approach and how you speak to certain people, like, you got to change your communication and how you word certain things. But besides all that, fellas, when you go to work, don't just go through the motions. Actually learn something, right? I'm sure there's something at your job that you can be learning, developing a new skill, networking with people, save your money, and then use that money that you save to invest in yourself. Buy equipment, buy books, buy that course that's gonna teach you something. Fund your dreams with your paycheck. Your paycheck shouldn't just be for paying bills. It should be for investing in your future. And when I say learn a skill, fellas, I'm not saying just go after what pays the most. Make sure that you guys go check out my video where I talked about not chasing money. A lot of people just jump on trends because they seen somebody else do it, or maybe they watched a YouTube video or a guru and they sold them this 4-week magical course on how to make $100,000 selling socks or something crazy like that. I don't suggest that, because when it doesn't work out for you, you're gonna quit. I suggest learning something that you're passionate about, because when you love it, you'll keep showing up to do it even when things get hard. Passion creates consistency, and consistency creates mastery. Now, fellas, if you honestly don't know where to start, 2 suggestions. I say artificial intelligence, get into AI, learning AI. I would say automations, learning automations, Power Automate, whatever the case may be, maybe coding, PowerShell, Python. And then sales. Oh, and that's another job. When I was working for the call center, that was another job that I learned a lot from. When they teach you how to sell, you feel like you can sell water to a well when you learn how to sell. Like, so I would say get into that AI, automations, and sales. Those industries are growing fast. But don't just pick one because it makes money. Pick one because it fits who you are. Because if you hate it, you're probably gonna quit. Some of you guys are sitting here watching this video thinking, my job would never fire me. And that's true, maybe they don't fire you. But what if the company shuts down? What if they outsource your department? What if they eliminate your role? What if AI replaces half of your team? You can't control any of that. Your company goes bankrupt and have to let everybody go. You can't control that. You getting laid off, you can't control that. But what you can control is how valuable you become. If your company fired you tomorrow, what skill do you have that another company will pay you for next week? That's the question you need to answer. Because the safest investment that you can make is in your skills, your mind, sharpening your mind. Nobody can take those away from you. So during this 90-day money run, fellas, we're not just trying to become men who save money. We're trying to become men with options, men with skills, men who don't have to panic if they were to lose their job tomorrow because they know that they can create another opportunity. Don't get comfortable, fellas, because comfort creates complacency, and complacency gets people replaced. Build yourself now, because if your job was to disappear tomorrow, your life shouldn't disappear with it. That's all I got for you today, fellas. I hope y'all staying strong on y'all 90-day money run. Comment down below how your money run is going. Make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe, follow me on all social media platforms. I'm gonna leave it down in the description below. Y'all already know what time it is, fellas. It's time to get to work.